She laughed in my face when I found out she was still talking to her ex. "What are you going to do? Break up with me?" The laugh died on her lips when I went to the bedroom and started packing my own damn things into a suitcase right in front of her. "My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 31 years old, and I work as a logistics coordinator for a mid-sized transportation company here in Texas. It's not a millionaire's salary, but I live well. I rent a downtown apartment, my bills are up to date, and I have a reliable truck that I paid off a while ago. Nothing extravagant, but stable." I had been with Laura, 28, for 3 years. We had been living together in my 2-bedroom apartment for 18 months. The first year and a half was genuinely good. I met her at a game night organized by friends. She was witty, fun, competitive to the extreme with Mario Kart, and had a contagious laugh that filled the room. She worked as a freelance graphic designer, doing mock-ups, branding, and designs for local businesses. She earned enough to live comfortably. On weekends, we cooked together, watched series, went to new restaurants, the usual stable relationship stuff. My apartment wasn't spectacular. It took me months to transform it after my previous relationship. I painted the walls, installed floating shelves, changed all the cheap fixtures, and bought furniture that finally felt adult. It was my refuge, and I was proud of every detail. When Laura moved in, we were clear about the financial agreements. "This place is in my name," I told her. "You cover groceries, utilities, and your personal expenses." She said that sounded perfect, that she was even reassured to be with someone organized and responsible. Looking back, maybe I should have noticed the signs. Small things I let slide because I wanted to believe we were a good team, like how she avoided talking about saving up to buy a house, changing the subject, or saying there was plenty of time. How she never contributed to home improvements but criticized every item I bought. Or how she invited people over without warning and then disappeared when it was time to clean. But the biggest sign was Alex, her ex-boyfriend from college. According to her, they had broken up amicably when he moved away for work. Ancient history, she called it. However, his name appeared more often than reasonable for something so ancient. News about his new job, screenshots of group chats he was in, even a birthday message she described as sweet. 6 months ago, I got up the nerve to ask, "Is there anything I should be worried about with Alex?" She rolled her eyes so dramatically I thought she might hurt herself. "Daniel, I'm with you. Alex lives in California. Stop imagining things." And I let it go. I believed I was being insecure. The routine continued as always. She worked from the second room we converted into an office. I got home around 6. We'd prepare something simple for dinner and watch TV. Nothing out of the ordinary. Each of us covered our expenses. I continued paying the mortgage. She drove her car and was up to date with her insurance. Everything seemed balanced, or so I believed. The first real signs appeared a couple of months ago. Subtle, almost imperceptible. She started paying much more attention to her phone. That wasn't unusual. Her work required answering messages. But what was strange was the way she tilted the screen, preventing me from seeing anything out of the corner of my eye, or how she suddenly got up to answer in another room. There was also that smile that only appeared when someone special texted her, a smile she hardly ever gave me anymore. My previous relationship ended due to different goals, not infidelity, so I'm not one to suspect things for no reason. I kept telling myself it was work stress, that I shouldn't make up stories, but then Thursday arrived, and all doubt vanished. That day, I came home exhausted from work. It was a heavy shift, clients insisting on impossible deadlines, problems with delayed shipments. I just wanted to get home, sit down, and not think. Laura was on the sofa, as always, with her laptop on her lap, wearing those leggings she wore daily and one of my college shirts she had claimed as her own. I made a quick sandwich, grabbed some chips, and sat down next to her. Everything was normal. She said she was working on a branding project for a fitness studio. I checked sports news and some delayed work emails. At 7:45, her phone vibrated on the table. The way she grabbed it was telling. It seemed like an automatic, almost nervous reaction. She snatched it so fast she almost knocked over her water bottle. She tilted the screen away, trying to hide it. I didn't say anything. I thought it might be a surprise for me or some argument between friends, but then she smiled. Not a casual smile, but that smile that lit up her eyes, the one she gave me when we first started dating or when I surprised her with her favorite food, a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. And then it vibrated again. Her smile widened. She bit her lip. She started typing with both hands, leaning forward, completely absorbed. She looked like she was having the most exciting conversation of her life. And I was sitting 2 feet away, invisible. I watched her for a long time in silence from the other end of the sofa. She didn't look up once. She just kept smiling to herself, typing, smiling again, as if the rest of the world had ceased to exist. At that moment, something sank in my stomach. It was that unpleasant feeling you try to ignore because you don't want to accept the obvious. Something wasn't right. "Who's keeping you so entertained?" I asked in a light tone, feigning curiosity so as not to sound accusatory. She reacted with a small, almost imperceptible jump, but I noticed it. She quickly recovered. "It's just Jenny. She sent a meme, nothing else." She didn't even look up from her phone. "Isn't Jenny on that cruise?" "Yeah, but she found Wi-Fi when they stopped at some port or something," she replied, still not looking at me, her fingers moving fluidly across the screen. Her smile was still wide and fixed, distant, completely different from how she usually reacted when her best friend sent her something. Because when Jenny shared a meme, Laura usually showed me the phone with a "look at this," and we'd end up laughing together. This, on the other hand, was private, hidden. Her phone vibrated again. This time it didn't surprise me. I managed to see the notification before she swiped it away too quickly. "Can't stop thinking about last weekend." The name that appeared above was Alex. Alex, her ex, the man she always said was absolutely irrelevant in her life. The one who supposedly lived in California, outside her world, totally unimportant. I felt the same coldness spread from my stomach to my chest. "Alex is texting you?" I asked, this time unable to feign neutrality. She froze for a couple of seconds. Her phone hung suspended in the air. I could see her mind scrambling for a strategy to handle the situation. And then she did it. Something I will never forget. She laughed. A real laugh. Not nervous, not uncomfortable. A genuine laugh, as if she had just heard a monumental absurdity. As if the idea of me being upset was simply a joke. "They're just messages." "Daniel," she said with a tone so nonchalant it hit me like a slap. "You told me you blocked him," I replied, trying to control my voice. "You told me months ago." "I blocked him, yes. Then I unblocked him," she replied, like someone explaining how a calculator works. "We're friends. There's nothing wrong with that." "Friends who can't stop thinking about last weekend?" I repeated, quoting exactly what I had read. She rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, Daniel, you're exaggerating. We just had coffee and caught up. That was all." That sentence ignited something in my head. Last weekend. "You told me you were at that design conference in Austin." "I was at the conference," she retorted, raising her voice slightly. "I only saw him for a little while on Saturday afternoon. It wasn't important." "If it wasn't important, why didn't you mention it?" "Because I knew you would react like this. You get jealous for no reason," she replied, now irritated. The laughter came back stronger, more mocking. "Daniel, please. You're being ridiculous. What are you going to do? Break up with me?" She said those words with a hurtful certainty, as if the idea of me leaving were so absurd it was laughable, as if she knew my limits better than I did, convinced that in the end I would always back down, as I had done with small things for months. At that moment, something inside me just switched off. There were no shouts, no argument. Everything was cold and clear, as if I had suddenly seen the situation from the outside. I got up without saying a word and walked to the bedroom. "Where are you going?" she asked, incredulous, still laughing. "Daniel, come back here." "We're talking." I was no longer interested in talking. I entered the bedroom, technically my bedroom. I opened the closet, moved her clothes aside, and took the black, rose-gold, rigid suitcase from the top shelf, the one I had bought her before the trip to Europe because she insisted for 2 weeks that she needed decent luggage. $300 spent just to keep her happy. I placed it on the bed and started packing, but only my things, shirts folded with the precision my mother taught me when I was a child. Each garment was a small declaration of independence, then my jeans, my toiletries, everything that was mine and nothing more. Laura entered behind me, phone still in hand, and it took her a few seconds to process what she was seeing. "Wait, are you putting your things in my suitcase?" I didn't answer. I just kept packing, methodical, without pauses. "Daniel, what are you doing? This isn't funny." They're just messages with my ex. It's not a big deal. I didn't stop my hands for a second. I closed the suitcase, took it to the front door, and returned for my carry-on bag. I packed my shoes, my gym clothes, my video games, the same ones she complained took up space, my chargers, my headphones, my watch collection. "Okay," she said, throwing up her arms. "I'll block him again. Happy?" I didn't reply. I opened my laptop and immediately searched for extended stay hotels. I found one 10 minutes away with reasonable monthly rates. I booked it without hesitation. "You're not leaving," she said, incredulous. "You're not leaving over a few messages." I went to my document file and took all the essentials: birth certificate, passport, social security card, tax returns. This time, there was no doubt, no laughter, no argument. I was already gone. I placed everything with an almost surgical calm inside a rigid, dark-colored folder, the same one where I kept my important documents. Then, that folder went into my carry-on bag, the one I used when traveling for work. I walked through the apartment room by room to make sure I wasn't leaving anything that was truly mine. I took down my university diploma, which had hung on the study wall for years, a silent reminder of the effort it had taken to get where I was. Right next to it was the framed photo of my mother, who had passed away 2 years prior. That portrait, more than an object, was a kind of emotional anchor. Whenever I saw it, I remembered her voice telling me never to let anyone disrespect me. As soon as Laura saw me heading for my most personal belongings, her attitude immediately changed. What was initially mockery, an arrogant, almost childish laugh, vanished as if someone had turned off an internal switch. "Wait, please, let's talk," she said, with a tremor in her voice she hadn't shown before. And at that moment, I understood something. She never wanted to talk. She only wanted to maintain control of the situation. I ordered an Uber, and the system showed 8 minutes until arrival. 8 minutes that must have felt like an eternity to her. "Daniel, you can't just leave like that. This is crazy. They were just messages," she insisted from the bedroom doorway. While she spoke, I checked my banking app. We didn't share accounts, thankfully, but I carried almost all the financial responsibility for our living situation. The rent was in my name, the electricity, water and gas bills, weekly groceries, her car insurance, because hers had expired, and I offered to cover it for a few months until she stabilized. Also her phone line, which I added to my plan for convenience. Now that I thought about it all, I realized I had been too permissive. I had confused support with maintaining someone who contributed nothing but excuses. So I began to dismantle that web of dependencies. First, I canceled the car insurance renewal. Then I removed her phone line from my plan. After that, I deactivated the automatic payments for the utilities. I would talk to the landlord later to reorganize the accounts when I officially left the place. "What are you doing on your phone?" she asked, approaching with anxious steps, trying to reach it. I pulled the device away just in time. The Uber showed 7 minutes. "Daniel, show me that. What are you—" I didn't reply with words. I simply showed her the screen. Her face paled almost immediately, as if the blood had completely drained from her. "You canceled my insurance." "Correct, but I need it to go to work. You know that. And you should have thought about that before you laughed in my face." Her voice began to crack, not out of true remorse, but out of fear of the consequences. "Please, Daniel, I'm sorry about the messages." That "I'm sorry" meant nothing. It was merely a reflection of emotional survival in the face of the reality that this time she couldn't manipulate the situation in her favor. I went to the kitchen and started gathering my most used appliances, the coffee maker she had given me for Christmas, the air fryer I used every week, the multi-function cooker she borrowed so often she treated it as her own. "Are you seriously taking the appliances?" she asked, outraged. "They're mine, and I'm taking them." 5 minutes until the car arrived. "It doesn't make sense. You're throwing away 3 years of a relationship over a trifle." "A trifle," I repeated mentally. That word resonated in my head with a mixture of irony and pain. Falling for someone who minimizes your dignity was the real trifle, wasn't it? This. I picked up her phone from the counter. I knew her unlock code. Her birthday. A code so simple it said a lot about the little effort she put into her privacy. Or perhaps the excessive confidence she had in me. She immediately jumped to grab it back, but I was faster. I opened the conversation with Alex, her ex. What I found were not simple messages. It was a complete journal of emotional infidelity, and much more that had been going on for months. Flirtatious comments, jokes that only two people with intimacy share, casual photos. They were planning to see each other more often than I imagined. Last weekend, she was supposedly at a design conference, but the location tags on the photos sent to Alex told a completely different story. She had spent the entire time at his apartment. I showed her the screen so she couldn't deny the obvious. Her features crumpled as if I had shown her a legal sentence. Daniel, this isn't what you think. 4 minutes left. I took out my phone and started taking pictures of every piece of furniture, every shelf, every electronic device. I had no intention of arguing later about what was mine and what wasn't. I had arrived there with that furniture long before she set foot in the apartment, and for months she had lived without paying rent, without contributing, using my things while secretly cheating on me. Daniel, please stop. Let's talk, she implored. 3 minutes. I sent a message to my friend Scott. Need a place to crash for a few days. Laura cheated on me. Going to a hotel tonight, but might need to stay with you later. The reply came in seconds. I'm sorry, man. You have the guest room whenever you need it. 2 minutes. Laura, now desperate, tried to open my suitcases to take out my things. Don't do this. Where do you expect me to go? I shrugged as I closed the last zipper. Alex's apartment seemed pretty available last weekend. I'll end it. I'll block him right now. Look. She nervously showed me the screen with the restricted contact. It was a pathetic attempt to remedy the irreversible. 1 minute. My phone vibrated. Your Uber has arrived. I grabbed the suitcases, the backpack with the laptop, and the folder with my documents. I walked toward the door without looking back until she made her final attempt. Daniel, please don't go. I love you. I turned around, and with the serenity that only appears when there is nothing left to save, I replied, What am I going to do? What you said yourself, Laura. Break up with you. I left her there, in an apartment she could no longer maintain, without insurance, without a phone line, and without the financial support she had grown accustomed to. The Uber driver helped me load the suitcases in silence. Moving out? He asked in a friendly tone. Something like that, I replied. Laura didn't stop calling for a second. Messages, calls, voicemails. After the 5th call, I silenced everything. There were more important priorities to attend to. My dignity, my peace of mind. The hotel where I stayed was modest but clean. A room with a small kitchen, a functional bathroom, stable Wi-Fi. I brought up my things, settled in, and for the first time in a long time, felt like I could breathe without a weight on my chest. I sat on the bed, took out my phone, and changed all the passwords we shared. Netflix, Prime, any service she used with my accounts. If she wanted to keep watching her shows, she would have to pay for them. I slept deeply that night. On Friday morning, I spoke with Richard, the apartment owner. We had always had a good relationship. He knew I was responsible with payments and careful with the property. Richard, I said when we sat in his office, I need to terminate the lease. I found out my girlfriend was cheating on me for months. I'm sorry to hear that, he replied with genuine concern. Does she plan to stay in the apartment? I don't know, but I'm not paying anymore. She's not on the contract, right? Correct. Only you are. Well, then she has essentially been your guest. Do you want us to formalize her departure? I want to be fair. Let's give her a 30-day notice. Perfect. I'll draft the documents today. I returned to the hotel. True to my word, I sent Laura a message. You have 30 days to leave the apartment. Richard will send you the formal notification. Good luck. What followed was an absolute explosion. Non-stop calls. Messages pouring in one after another. Some were rage, others blame, others emotional manipulation. Among the most striking, you can't kick me out. I have rights. This apartment is my home too. I'm going to report you for illegal eviction. Why are you doing this to me? Please answer me. I swear I'll change. You're ruining my life. And as if that weren't enough, her family wanted to join the chaos. Her mother, Brenda, called several times. I finally answered to make things clear. Daniel, what does this mean that you abandoned Laura? I didn't abandon her, Brenda. I left after discovering she was cheating on me with her ex for months. She says they were just messages. When I checked her GPS location last weekend, I didn't have to try hard to figure out what was happening. According to her, she was at a conference. but the data clearly placed her at Alex's apartment. That was enough. When I confronted her, the only thing I got back was silence. Then came that phrase that so many people repeat when they want to justify the unjustifiable. Well, everyone makes mistakes. You should talk like adults. But adults don't laugh at their partner when exposed for infidelity. That comment came from Laura, not me. I've been disrespected enough. I made it clear to Brenda, her mother, the following. Brenda, tell Laura she has 30 days. Then I hung up and blocked her too. It wasn't long until her brother tried to contact me to repeat the same script, that I was exaggerating, that a mistake shouldn't erase 3 years of a relationship. I blocked him without hesitation too. By Saturday, I had blocked 17 different numbers, her friends, family members, and even people I had only seen a couple of times. Everyone wanted to convince me that I should be more understanding and offer her another chance, but I had reached the limit of tolerating disrespect. Scott, on the other hand, was supportive from the first moment. Bro, stay at my place as long as you need, he told me. Watching you react like that is admirable. Most guys would have given in at some point. I'm not going to tolerate disrespect within my own relationship anymore, I replied firmly. Want to grab some dinner on Sunday? An unexpected turn occurred. Laura showed up at the hotel where I was staying. The reception called me. Sir, there's someone here claiming to be your fiancé. Would you like us to let her up? Absolutely not. She's harassing me. If she refuses to leave, call the police. As I spoke, I heard her altered voice shouting in the distance that I couldn't do this to her, that she had rights, that I was stripping her of something. Security staff ended up escorting her out of the building. On Monday, I went back to the apartment, taking advantage of the fact that she was supposedly with her mother. Scott accompanied me as backup. We filmed a complete tour of the place, taking photos and videos to document everything. Then I started removing my belongings. My furniture, my television, my dishes, my bicycle, my tools, my books. Every object I had bought before she moved in or acquired with my own money came with me. We left the place practically empty, except for what was hers. Just as we were loading the last items, she arrived. She stood frozen in the doorway, looking at the completely stripped apartment. You took everything, she said, almost voiceless. I took my things, not yours. If you're not sure, check the receipts. Where am I supposed to sit? Where am I going to sleep? Where am I going to eat? That's no longer my problem, I replied calmly. Laura, you have 26 days to resolve your situation. She was carrying a box in her hands, probably taking some of her things to her mother's house. Scott and I left with the last load. She stayed in the middle of the empty apartment, finally realizing that my decision was definitive. That same afternoon, my workplace called me. Daniel, someone attempted to access your corporate email from an unauthorized device. We've blocked it. Laura was trying to access my work accounts. For what purpose? To look for false evidence? To try and ruin me professionally? I had no idea. I changed all my passwords, activated 2-step verification on absolutely everything, and sent a detailed report to Human Resources. Then I wrote to her, "Stop trying to access my accounts. You are committing a crime." She responded with an absurd justification. I just wanted to see if you were talking to other women while you were accusing me of cheating. The irony was breathtaking. Tuesday reached a new level of baseness. She posted ads in housing search groups saying I was looking for a roommate, using my real number, claiming the rent was $200 including utilities, and that I preferred women. My phone exploded with calls and messages from strangers. I had to deny the posts, report them, and finally change my number completely. A week later, the inevitable came, the final explosion. When she saw the official 30-day notice taped to the apartment door, she understood that legal action would begin if she didn't leave on her own. Her reaction was to lose control. She tried to manipulate my friends. She sent messages to my entire group saying I was having a mental breakdown, that I was paranoid, that I was accusing her of cheating when, according to her, she had always been loyal. Most didn't fall for it, but she did manage to convince Nicholas's girlfriend, Lucy, who started pressuring him to talk to me. That night, Nicholas called me. Bro, Lucy thinks you're going through something serious. Did Laura happen to mention to her that she was at Alex's house the weekend she swore she was at a conference? She definitely skipped that detail. Check Lucy's phone, I told him. You'll see that Laura omitted information. There were voices in the background. Then Nicholas came back. Lucy is reading everything now, and yes, she's mad at Laura, not you. Sorry, man. One less problem. Then the workplace harassment began. She called my office several times, claiming to be my fiancé and that there was a family emergency. 5 calls in 2 hours. My boss asked for an explanation. I showed him the messages, proof of infidelity, the harassment. I'll notify security, he told me. She won't be allowed inside. If this continues, we can request a restraining order. But Laura didn't stop. On Thursday, I received an alert from my credit monitoring service. Mr. Carter, there are recent applications for 3 credit cards using your personal information. It was identity theft. She used my social security number with different addresses. At that point, she had crossed the line into serious crime. I spent hours blocking my credit with all 3 agencies, filed police reports, and saved every screenshot with dates and details. The detective in charge was surprisingly clear. You have proof that she knows your social security number. She lived with me for 18 months, I explained. She had access to my documents and is about to be evicted for her infidelity. The motive is clear. We'll have to interview her. On Friday morning, the inevitable consequence arrived. Laura texted me from another number. The police came to my work. Did you report me? I replied. You committed identity theft. What did you expect? I didn't do anything. 3 card applications say otherwise. I was desperate. You ruined my life. No, Laura. You destroyed yourself. I started by cutting off all financing that could in any way still benefit Laura. I did it without arguments or warnings. I simply stopped sustaining expenses that I should never have carried alone. The funny thing is, the most immediate reaction didn't even come from her, but from her job. Her boss called, annoyed after police officers came to the office to verify the fraud report I had filed. The situation exposed her in a way I hadn't even anticipated. She was suspended pending a formal investigation. I think that was the first real blow she received from her own decisions. Shortly after I moved, I received a message from Richard, the former landlord. Daniel, since you no longer live there and she is the sole occupant, I will hold her exclusively responsible for the damages. You are completely free of any liability. I read it twice to be sure. It sounded like heavenly music. But the truly explosive thing came from an unexpected front. Social media. Laura, in her dramatic zeal, decided to go live on Instagram on a Sunday night. I don't know if she planned it or if it was another impulsive outburst, but the stream was a spectacle. Whimpering, smudged makeup, breathless speech, and an emotionally chaotic rant about being the victim of a toxic ex who had left her on the street. I didn't see the live stream at the time, but Nicholas sent me clips a few hours later. The audience initially seemed to pity her until a comment set everything off. Didn't you cheat on your ex with Alex? The chat froze. The stream ended abruptly. She deleted it minutes later, but it was too late. Screenshots. Recordings. The content was circulating. And though she denies it to her last breath, what came next was a direct consequence of her own decisions. Alex, her great hero, her supposed emotional refuge, had already stopped talking to her by then. A friend of hers, fed up with the drama, sent me a private message. He only wanted something casual. He never wanted anything serious. He blocked her when she showed up crying outside his house, saying she had nowhere to sleep. That confirmed what I already suspected. Alex never wanted a relationship. He just wanted easy hookups with a woman who was already committed. But when she became truly available, she became a problem, and he disappeared. Day 30. The day of the eviction fell on a Tuesday, exactly 30 days from the notice. And those 30 days were a parade of manipulation tactics that could fill a manual. Love bombing, endless messages declaring eternal love, talking about destiny, about second chances. I didn't reply to a single one. Legal threats. A friend of her mother's, a real estate lawyer, sent an absurd letter accusing me of illegally evicting her. My lawyer responded with a detailed analysis of rental law. We never heard from that woman again. Guilt trips. Family. Her mother, her brother, and aunt, cousins I barely remembered, all blocked. Pressure on my family. Her father even called mine, as if my dad could convince me of anything. My father's response was a masterpiece. Your daughter cheated on mine. He's acting exactly as he should. Fake pregnancy. A photo of a positive pregnancy test accompanied by, "We need to talk about the baby." I asked for a clinical examination with me, present or dated medical documentation. She never replied. That was the point where I almost lost my patience. Threats of self-harm, messages saying she didn't want to live. I immediately called for a welfare check. The police arrived, found her perfectly fine, and warned her about the seriousness of manipulating with false emergencies. Nothing worked. I spent 2 weeks in a hotel, and then moved into Scott's spare room while looking for an apartment. I found a perfect one. 15 minutes from work, better neighborhood, new building, underground parking, more expensive gym. Yes, but necessary. And fate decided that the day of my move should coincide with Laura's eviction. At 2 p.m., Richard texted me. She's gone. She left the apartment destroyed, but she's out. Do you want to come check? I went with Scott. I didn't know what to expect, but I certainly didn't expect that. The place looked like something out of a show about abandoned houses, piles of garbage bags, rotten food in the sink, furniture that once served me, now destroyed. My old desk had its legs ripped off. The sofa cushions were slashed with obvious cuts. The walls had holes in several places, but the worst was in the bedroom. Messages written directly on the wall with black marker. I hope you die alone. You'll regret this forever. Karma will get you. Scott couldn't help but whistle. Bro, she completely lost it. Richard documented everything with photos and videos. The damages alone totaled over $3,000. He was going to take her to small claims court. I simply told him, do what's right. I just want to close this chapter. In the middle of the living room was a cardboard box. Inside, all our photos, albums, concert tickets, letters, anniversary memories, the entire emotional archive of the relationship, as if leaving those memories there was a kind of poetic punishment for me. I looked at Scott, thinking the same thing. Dumpster, he replied. Dumpster, I said. We took the box, carried it to the trash compactor, and threw it in without looking at anything. The past belongs to the past, and this particular past deserved to be compressed until it disappeared. Later, while helping Scott with meal prep for the week, he was teaching me to cook so I wouldn't keep living on takeout, I received a call from an unknown number. Am I speaking with Daniel Carter? Yes, this is me. This is Officer Davis from the police department. We have arrested Laura for several counts of fraud and identity theft. You are listed as the victim in the reports. We wanted to inform you. The credit card applications had been traced to her computer, her IP address, her browsing history. She had even used her own email in one of them. Her desperate attempt to finance a new life ended exactly where it should, in a cell. I felt no happiness or revenge, only immense relief. What happens next? I asked. She will be presented to the judge tomorrow. Bail hearing. With the current evidence, the case is quite solid. She is facing serious charges. Laura was released on $5,000 bail the next day, and that was the exact moment I realized that for the first time in a long time my life was no longer tied to hers, not even emotionally. I was a completely free man. For a while, I thought nothing could surprise me after everything that had happened, but every week brought a new echo of the consequences Laura had brought upon herself. I learned, because her own parents posted it, that they had practically mortgaged their future to try to rescue her from the situation she herself had created. Still, they couldn't prevent her from ending up with a criminal record, unemployed, and homeless. After the initial suspension, the company decided to fire her, leaving her without income and without options. Meanwhile, through acquaintances who had chosen sides but maintained contact with both, I heard that Laura had moved back in with her parents in another state, Ohio, and was now working at a mall store. She was living in her teenage room again at 28, while facing court dates for identity theft charges. Furthermore, the damages she had caused to my old apartment cost her an additional $2,800 beyond the security deposit. Richard took her to small claims court and won without difficulty, so she was obligated to pay $100 monthly until the debt was settled. She was looking at approximately 3 years of monthly reminders of the real price of the decisions she made. I, on the other hand, moved into my new apartment on a Saturday. Scott and Nicholas helped me carry my things. The place was smaller than the previous one, but for the first time in a long time, it felt completely mine, without contaminated memories, without drama, without lies or betrayal, just white walls ready to be filled with new stories. I had been consistently going back to the gym for a month, partly out of emotional necessity, partly because I had neglected my well-being amid the chaos Laura generated. I resumed meal prep, started reading again, and even unwrapped the guitar I had bought years ago, but never learned to play well. Laura always complained about the noise when I tried to work, so I never made much progress. I also reconnected with friends who had slowly distanced themselves while I was sinking into that relationship. It turned out they all had a bad feeling about Laura, but avoided telling me to not cross boundaries. Now we had a fixed routine, playing basketball every Thursday night. In my closet, the expensive suitcases I had bought for the trip to Europe I planned with Laura still rested. Instead, I decided I would take them with me on a solo trip to Japan the following month. 15 days of temples, incredible food, and a total disconnection from drama or relationships. I like to think that those suitcases, instead of carrying broken expectations, would now accompany me on something truly meaningful. If that wasn't a kind of poetic justice, I didn't know what would be. About 6 weeks after everything exploded, I was sitting with Scott in my new living room playing video games and eating pizza. That's when I received a message from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it. It said, "Daniel, it's Laura. I changed phones. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this. I'm sorry. I ruined the best thing I had. You were right about everything. Alex used me. My friends left me alone. I lost my job. I'm living with my parents and working retail. I have court dates for crimes I never thought I'd commit. My life is destroyed. And it's my fault. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I hope someday you can understand that I'm truly sorry. You deserved so much more." I read that message several times. Scott peeked over from the couch. "It's her." "Yeah," I replied. "Are you going to answer her?" I thought about it for a good while. Part of me wanted to vent everything I had kept silent, to explain how much damage she caused, how many nights I stayed awake wondering what I had done wrong, and how her laughter in my face when I discovered her hurt me more than the infidelity itself. But why? She was already living the consequences, and her fall didn't need me to push her further. So, I wrote a single sentence. "I hope you find what is broken inside you that made you think treating people like that was okay. We are over. Send, block, delete." Scott nodded with a smile. "Impeccable." "Learned from the master," I told him, recalling how he had handled his own disastrous breakup 2 years prior. Sometimes the best closure is simply moving on. 3 months later, the identity theft case went to trial. The prosecutor's office offered her a plea deal. 2 years of probation, full restitution for the attempted fraud and my legal expenses, mandatory counseling, and a felony on her record. She accepted to avoid the risk of serving time in prison. As part of the agreement, she had to pay me $3,400 for my fees and to repair the damage to my credit, monthly payments of $150 for 2 years. Added to the debt she had with Richard for the apartment, Laura would have to shell out about $250 a month for a good while. Her mother, Brenda, called me one last time from another number I hadn't blocked yet to plead with me to consider withdrawing the restitution. "She's working minimum wage, Daniel. She can barely afford her car. This is destroying her," she said desperately. "Brenda," I replied calmly, "your daughter committed a serious crime against me. She could be in prison. The restitution was ordered by the court. There is nothing to withdraw. Your daughter laughed in my face when I discovered her cheating. She tried to ruin my credit, vandalized my apartment, harassed me, my job, and my friends. Every consequence she faces is a consequence she chose. I will not be her lifeline again." I hung up and blocked that number too. 4 months had passed since Brenda's call, 4 months since I blocked the last numbers associated with that chaos. And yet, one afternoon, leaving the gym, I stopped at the door when I saw a court envelope in my mailbox. It was nothing dramatic. A notification confirming that Laura had begun making the restitution payments. It was a simple, almost insignificant process, but reading my name on that document, I felt something I didn't expect. Closure. A real, tangible, administrative closure even, but closure nonetheless. I put the envelope in my backpack and walked to my car, still breathing heavily from the workout. Sophia, a woman I was getting to know, had texted to confirm our 4th date. A long walk by the river, and then a casual dinner. There were no grand expectations, just a calm that I had forgotten existed. That contrast, between the legal silence of a settled case and the message from someone who owed me no explanations, who wasn't manipulating me, who wasn't walking through life setting everything on fire, made me understand that my time with Laura had stopped taking up space in me. Not because I had erased it, but because it had finally lost importance. As I drove, I thought about how it all started. The confusion, the absurd arguments, the betrayal. I thought about how it ended with legal sanctions, economic restitution, precarious jobs, and a future she herself had sabotaged. I was no longer part of that world. It wasn't my responsibility to fix it or comment on it. That night, when Sophia arrived with her calm smile and a bottle of water, as if it were a small personal ritual, I knew my life had taken an imperceptible but definitive turn. We chatted while we walked about our days, about music, about plans without demands. She knew nothing of Laura beyond the minimum I had shared, and she didn't need to know. The important thing was that I no longer lived under that shadow either. Leaving her at her building, I paused for a moment before driving off. I looked at the empty passenger seat, the same one that for years had been the scene of arguments, tense silences, excuses I no longer remember. This time, I was at peace. I no longer sought answers. I no longer wondered what I had done wrong. I no longer tried to understand the cruel laughter of that night. The story with Laura didn't end with a grand gesture, a final conversation, or a life-changing repentance. It ended simply when I stopped needing a perfect ending. And at that moment, as I started the car and the city lit up around me, I understood that the truly important thing wasn't how she had fallen, but how I had managed to get back up. Sophia texted me as soon as I got home. "Did you have a good time?" "I did. Let me know if you want to do it again tomorrow." I smiled without thinking. Life finally felt light again, and that, for me, was the only conclusion I needed.